much too complex, much too complex, too complex, too complex, too complex.
Good afternoon. My name is James K. Holder II. Some of you may know me as Sir James II. I'd like to welcome you back to Not On My Watch. As always, I'd like to ask you to subscribe, like, comment, and share. I want you to retweet this and repeat this. If you're watching, it is Thursday, October 5th, 2017, and I apologize for the day off that I had to take yesterday, but I am back and ready to discuss the world's events. Sadly, several days ago, on October 1st, the evening of October 1st, America witnessed its deadliest mass attack, mass shooting by a lone gunman in Las Vegas. Now, in this one attack, an individual male killed 58 others, and then himself over a span of about 30 minutes from the 32nd floor of a hotel that looked upon the Las Vegas Strip. In addition to the 59 total fatalities, there were 489 others injured in this mass shooting. And so there is a level of just we hear the terms heartbreak and pain and anguish and anger and disappointment over and over and over again. This, for every day that has occurred in the United States, there has been a mass shooting this year. That is the trend in this country. This is not new. This is something that continually happens. And every single time it happens, we are left to sort of either just simply deal with the consequences and move on, because effectively we've had no major legislation in place to prevent these particular occurrences from happening. It's always a discussion. It always comes back to the main talking points. Who should have guns? No one should have guns. Guns don't kill people, people kill people. And then, of course, there's the added layer of, okay, well, which people are really killers and which ones are mentally ill and which ones really didn't mean it and which ones are kind-hearted souls. And I'm frankly just a little bit tired of having the same conversation over and over again, where nothing is really resolved, nothing is really gained. No lost souls are being honored in any meaningful way, in the way that we go about addressing the real issues that impact our country and what's going on. And so I just kind of want to discuss what I believe maybe is a part of the problem, a large part of the problem here. Now, yesterday I was going to come on. I usually come on Wednesdays. And I couldn't do it. I was too, frankly, upset about the massive pain caused in this occurrence that, for all intents and purposes, could have been prevented by reasonable gun legislation. And secondly, just by the sheer nonsense of everything else that's going on. We are in very desperate times in this country. Between the natural disasters that are occurring all throughout the Gulf Coast and the Caribbean, and then just simply the sheer de-evolution, the shrinking of the dignity of our governing forces in America, is an embarrassment around the world. And I will go no further than to just say I am personally embarrassed by our country's leadership. I think that the job of being in any office, any public office, should be to serve the American people or to serve your constituents specifically. And if you're not interested in that job, if you don't take seriously the responsibilities associated with that job, I just don't understand why you don't do something else. Because we are in desperate need of civilized leadership in this country. And from the name-calling and the lies and the misdirection that we've gotten when Americans are dying by bullets or by starvation or by flooding or lack of access to health care, this cannot persist. So we must resist. So in true form, I'm going to discuss a political angle as to how we can go about resolving these issues. Now, as always, you know, Democrats are not perfect, but no human is perfect. So Democrats don't need to be perfect. But I want to discuss specifically the leadership in the legislative bodies of this country and their discussion was as a result of this attack that occurred on October 1st. Now, since this shooting, a lot of information has come out, some has been false. I mean, you immediately had false news, fake news reporting that the killer was a Democrat. Although I wouldn't be surprised at this point because people have had it and they're at their wits' end. But I think it's beyond that. You know, it's beyond who the shooter was. The problem is that Americans died. People died unnecessarily because one person decided that they were going to be a coward that day, that they were going to be weak that day, and instead of confronting their personal issues head on, that they were going to create a larger issue for others. Instead of treating and addressing their pain internally and within their household, they decided that they were going to walk out and take the lives, attempt to take the lives of masses of individuals. There's no way to know how many people this person expected to kill in his horrible attack, but it happened. And so I want to talk about Speaker Ryan and Leader Mitch McConnell, who both called for no changes in gun legislation after this attack. Now, it should not go unnoticed that Paul Ryan, in the last 18 years, has taken over $171,000 in support directly from the National Rifle Association. If you scale out and look directly at directly at general support for gun rights advocacy groups for Speaker Ryan, Paul Ryan, one person, this man has taken over twice that. He's taken over $350,000 from gun rights advocacy groups in the duration of his political career. Now, this number seems staggering, right? This is approaching $250,000. This is over $250,000, approaching $500,000. Now, this information, just so you don't get mad at me, came from OpenSecrets.org. They have a spreadsheet that I accessed through a political website. I will provide the link to this this spreadsheet. It's a Google document. And it literally, I mean, it's like every politician, they have the records dating back to, what year is this? 1989. Illustrating how much each of these politicians has taken from gun rights advocacy groups, or including the NRA. Leader Mitch McConnell has taken in that time, since 1989. Now, obviously, Mitch McConnell has been in office longer than 18 years. He's been in office longer than Speaker Ryan. But in that time, he's taken almost $1 million from these groups. He's taken over $900,000 from these gun rights advocacy groups. And we, as Americans, have allowed, through our votes, since then, I'm like, we can go back to 1989 and look at how much money the NRA has given these people. And yet they still continue to remain in office. They're still incumbents. They still hold seats. They still take votes. And it's no wonder that every time a vote comes up or a discussion comes up, that they seem to believe that there's no problem or there's no resolution for the serious gun problem that we have in America. Now, you can Google anywhere and find how embarrassing the statistics are when it comes to Americans and gun violence compared to other developed nations around the world. But this isn't about other nations, this is about us, because we have a complex history and we have our own problems that are separate from other nations. So I don't know how healthy it is, as with the healthcare debate or any other, to discuss what other countries are doing and how it impacts us. I think it's much more important to look inward, look at our elected officials, and determine that people who take this much money, people who take any money from groups that are working to sell deadly weapons on our lands solely for the purpose of making money. I don't care if you're a mom and pop gun store seller, I don't care if you own a pawn shop, I don't care if you make guns, I don't care if your business is legal, illegal, whatever. You're in the business of transferring guns from people to people, you're in the business of killing. And the GOP is in the business of killing. They are the RIP party. Let's stop calling them the GOP. They're the RIP party because it makes no sense for a group of people. Now, let's look at this. I mean, there are staggering numbers on how much money the GOP as a whole took. This is just two people I'm talking about over the course of their careers. But specifically, Donald Trump. The NRA specifically gave over $30 million just to make sure that Donald Trump was elected the President of the United States. Why is that? Did you really believe that Donald Trump was going to, have in one of the debates, he said he agreed with Hillary Clinton that someone who's on a no-fly list should also be on a list to not be able to buy guns. And he agreed to that. Has that been enacted by executive order since he's been in office? Absolutely not. This person was lying to you. Donald Trump took directly over $10 million from the NRA. This is just in 1 year, this person has been in office. This person only started the politics game 2015 when he announced in that disgusting speech that he gave in his trashy little hotel. And now here we are 2 years later, this man has taken $10 million directly. Now, separate from that, the NRA spent over $20 million in direct ads against Hillary Clinton's candidacy. This spanned the primary and the general election. So some would argue that Bernie Sanders also benefited from this support. I don't even care to talk about that man right now. The issue is that there's a pattern here where we are able to somehow attribute blame to a party like the Democrats, who have taken virtually no money, there's some, but virtually no money from the NRA, and then compare that to the RIP party. I mean, we've got to be smarter than this when it comes to who we vote for. Don't vote for anybody who took money from the NRA, actively or passively. If you are benefiting from NRA support, whether they put money in your hand or they put money against your opposition, this is not a politician you should be supporting. If this person has not revealed to you their tax documentation, you should not be voting for that person. It's pretty standard, it's pretty straightforward. And this is where we have to be moving just in perpetuity from now on. We can't afford to make these mistakes any longer. There was one particularly valiant gentleman who was going through and snatching wigs and taking names and spilling the tea on everybody who took how much money and juxtaposed to what their comments were about the Las Vegas shooting specifically. This is Mr. Igor Volsky. You can follow him at Igor Volsky on Twitter. I highly recommend this person. I mean, he has also a podcast called The Thinking Cap, where he's joined by another colleague. And I would say that his Twitter account is one to follow in general, but specifically right now, because he is leading one movement that is about calling and contacting and reaching out to our senators and elected officials and demanding sensible gun legislation. Now, there's a lot of different specific requests that are coming out now. And of course, it's a hot topic now and everybody's talking about it. But I think we have to, at some point, we have to make it less about the politics and more about the people, because people are dying unnecessarily. And there's things that we can do to stop this. And people who are elected to protect us, to make choices so that we don't face this type of pain and fear in our daily lives, and they're not willing to do the work to protect us from what Wendy Williams would call them ne'er-dwellers, the killer. We have to be more diligent about this stuff. So I invite you to follow Igor Volsky. I want you to check out that open secret spreadsheet and just find out how much money that your senators and your representative have taken from these groups. You will probably be shocked. On the spreadsheet, obviously, you can just type Control F or Apple F on your computer. Once the spreadsheet is up, and you type in their name, or it doesn't have a specification for the state, but type in their name, and it'll come right up. And it'll show you like the line item, how much money they took. It's ridiculous. In other devastating news, while we were fighting to protect the Affordable Care Act, the Congress, I'm not even going to say GOP, Congress failed to reauthorize funding for the Children's Health Insurance Program. Now, this is a program that works to supplement insurance companies and offer health insurance to 9 million American children. Now, children who have qualified for this program are now in danger of not receiving medical treatment. Hospitals that treat these children will face, sort of certain doom, because they're going to ultimately now have backlogs in payments, and they're not going to get funding for the work that they've done to protect America's children. 9 million children. Now, call me crazy, but the uninsured rate now, we're talking about how many uninsured Americans are there? My last guess was that through Obamacare, it had been about 30 million. I mean, don't quote me on that. I thought we were about 20 to 30 million uninsured. So while we work to protect the Affordable Care Act, we've taken a significant step back in that now we've lost 9 million on that number, simply because this fee was not reauthorized by Congress, which is run by the GOP. But frankly, when you have Democrats signing on to promote a Medicare for All bill in a climate where Republicans had a September 30th deadline to repeal the Affordable Care Act and couldn't do it, now they're finding a new way to simply defund aspects of the Affordable Care Act that would protect the main provisions in as much as Medicare, Medicaid, and also support for pre-existing conditions, or people with pre-existing conditions. I think that we, as a country, are just simply failing. Part of it is because of the GOP's onslaught. A big part of their strategy is just sheer distraction. The Secretary of State calling the president a fucking imbecile or a fucking moron or whatever you call them. Now that's taken a whole day off of the resistance, and we're all spinning our wheels to cover this, which is why I refused to simply come on yesterday. I wasn't going to discuss that in any meaningful way. Because now 9 million children are in danger. And what are we going to do about it? I invite you to follow Kamala Harris, the senator from California. She has currently, as her pinned tweet, she is devoted to focusing on the sheer numbers of state by state, how many children are impacted by this one budget line item. And there's a call for a reauthorization of the funding for the CHIP program, which it should not go unmentioned that this is a program that was initially founded by Hillary Clinton. In her mid-90s attempt to get universal health care, which ultimately failed, we know that, one of the things that she was able to achieve was the Children's Health Insurance Program, which has provided health insurance for countless of millions of Americans by now, but currently offers support for 9 million. Until it was basically defunded this week. So we can call and ask them, demand that they reinstate this program, that they fund this program. Democrats can sort of forestall signing on any budget that doesn't include funding for this moving forward. There are ways, it's not the end of the day, but there is going to have to be active measures taken to bring this back. And this has got to be a #1 priority. Call your senator. Call them about this. Call them about sensible gun legislation. Now, I think that the reauthorization of the CHIP program, the funding for the CHIP program, is a very specific request. So it's very easy to call your senator and demand that one thing, because when it comes up, it's simple. I think as far as like demanding sensible gun legislation, there's really no discussion around what that means. And so I don't know that calling them now, I mean, again, Igor Volsky is someone who's trying to lead that charge, but that could be somewhere else. So my plea to you would be to focus specifically on the CHIP program, because that is urgent. That is urgent and important. I want to shout out Carmen Yulin Cruz, the mayor of San Juan, Puerto Rico, who is taking it all in stride. She has an impossible task before her, and she is facing incredible odds, including a windstorm and a windbag. So I will ask that you all just support in any way that you can. One way that you can support is by being a part of the Headshots for Hunger program. This is the program in Atlanta that I'm running to raise funds for the Houston Food Bank, for Feeding South Florida, and also the One America Appeal. If you donate $100 or more to these organizations, you will be entitled to a free headshot session at my studio in Atlanta. So far, we have raised, in conjunction with our partners, $4,300 of our $10,000 goal to help people impacted in the region. So I invite you to keep supporting. If you're thinking about donating to one of these organizations and coming in for your headshot, please do so quickly. Please schedule your appointment on the website, www.headshotsforhunger, that's the number 4, hunger.com. Wrapping up our first shoot, this is the first shoot for Headshots for Hunger to benefit Harvey victims. Tim, why don't you tell me a little bit about like what motivates you to get involved in?
Currently, I live in New York, and it seems almost a world away, and it's really easy to be complacent and say, you know, let's just wait for the news cycle to turn one time, and you know, all these images will be out of sight, out of mind. When it comes to the pain that people are going through, the physical loss, the loss of family members, those things never go away for those people. And this is really just a small way for me to get involved, and I could honestly we could all do way more. I appreciate you for vetting this particular charity and giving us a place where we can put our money, where we know that it's going to go to people who really need it, and that's people who are hungry in a time like this.
And we will go from there. I cannot tell you how important this funding is, and we have to keep our eyes on the ball. There's just so much going on right now, and we have to be We have to be able to multitask. With that, I'd like to thank our friends to the show. This is anyone who has donated at least $1 to www.paypal.me/jkh2. These donations help me buy coffee, or they help me buy lights. I have a new light in the studio, so you might see this a little bit different. I have wanted a light like this for years so that I could do video and not use my flash modeling light. So welcome to 2017. I appreciate all the support through Amazon and also through PayPal that has enabled me to make improvements on this show and put out a more consistent product and something that we can all look forward to in documenting the resistance. Without further ado, I'd like to thank Angela S, Joseph R, Jenn L, Pleiades M, Gloria N, Margaret S, Ann G, at Not Lady Mary from Twitter, Cheryl S, Angela P, Jesse E, thank you Jesse, you are a true inspiration, Kelly B, JF, Elizabeth C, first donor to the show, continuing to support, and also Austin H. So I just want to thank you all so much for supporting the show and supporting also the Counter TV, which is the cooking show. I pray that you will just continue to keep America in your prayers and thoughts. But for those of you who can actually make a difference, keep your prayers, keep your thoughts, and do your jobs. Because people are in pain, people are dying, and people are going to continue to die. As long as you sit on the sidelines and cash checks and skirt blame and pretend that nothing is happening, the blood is on your hands. Do something about it. And as a voter, it is your responsibility to make sure that people who are making these choices are being responsible in the choices that they make regarding our access to health care and the enforcement of sensible gun legislation. Without further ado, I'd like to ask you to relax, relate, and resist. Thank you.